So teachers are striking in LA, and I wanted to play for you this short clip from Vice News, which sums up what's happening pretty nicely. You know, I think most people might react like, well, what do you mean? California's a pretty far left state, and obviously they fund their schools properly, right? I mean, they fund them right in LA, don't they? Well, not really. So you're about to see a video explaining that in detail, and then we'll talk about it.
We, the people, not the politicians, are still the boss.
The underfunding of LA schools goes back to the taxpayers' revolt of 1978, when California voters passed Proposition 13. The ballot measure capped local property taxes, and as a result, gutted school budgets statewide. California now ranks near the bottom in the country on per-pupil spending and student-teacher ratios. So when the LA Teachers Union asked its members to authorize a strike last year, the response was overwhelming. 98% voted yes. There's a reason for that. While LA's schools are struggling, a lot of teachers believe that rather than fix them, the school district would prefer to abandon them to charters and other privatization schemes. Over the years, the LA school district has slashed the budget for basic support staff. There are now fewer than 400 nurses for roughly 900 school campuses.
Teachers, united, will never be defeated!
Stephanie Yellin-Mednick is a school nurse in the San Fernando Valley who's helped organize her colleagues for the strike. She used to work at one school full-time. Now she splits her time between four.
I think we're a little nervous about this and very scared in a way because it's not something we really want to do.
It's pretty surprising to hear that there are so many schools that only have a nurse come in once a week. It's like a little bit, how does that even work? I mean, what happens if the nurse is only there on a Thursday? What happens when a kid gets sick on a Monday? I mean,
don't have an emergency on a Monday.
It's not just the nurse just being there one day a week. We have no confidentiality in many of our offices. At one of the schools, the nurse works in a hallway or under the stairwell, a closet, the bathroom. When you're sitting with a girl that's not sure whether she's pregnant or not. I mean, that's something we deal with even in middle school, or child abuse. It's very difficult to deal with child abuse when you have an office full to try to close a door to talk to a child, let alone if you don't have a door.
Parents and the private sector have also tried to plug budget holes by raising extra funds for individual schools. But that's created a divide in the district, and Martha Infante Thorpe, a social studies teacher, has seen both sides of it.
I want to say I was 21.
She taught poor students for over 20 years in South LA. Now she's teaching middle-class kids in the Valley. But even the extra funds raised by the parents at her new school can't fix the structural problem. Martha still has class sizes in the 40s, compared to the national average of 26. And this is what you had to come up with, literally to just fit them into the space.
Exactly. And I still wasn't satisfied because the kids are still really crowded, and maybe I can get rid of my teacher desk and that'll give them more space. The conditions are not allowing us to get the best results from our students. And we know what conditions we need because we're in the classroom every single day. So I know when I'm teaching a class of 40 plus students, I'm not the most effective teacher.
Is there any concern among teachers or within the union that the strike could backfire in some way, make the teachers look bad? Is that something that gets talked about?
There is always that concern. I don't think the public is used to teachers being rowdy and being activists. In fact, some of the comments I've received on my social media postings are, "You're too strident, you need to speak more softly." We're done speaking softly. We're not speaking softly anymore.
It's hard for me to fathom that some people could watch that and then walk away not supporting the teachers. It's like these sweet ladies don't even want to be protesting, but they feel like they have to. They have no choice. So just to run through it real quick, Prop 13 capped property taxes, and then that now led to chronically underfunded schools for obvious reasons. Property taxes fund the schools. So that's a problem. And now it's manifesting itself. So when they asked the union, 98% were pro-striking, which shows you they all realize how dire the circumstances are. And by the way, this is why collective bargaining is so important, because workers need to be able to get together and then negotiate collectively so that they get a better deal, because if it's individually, then the employer has all the power, not the employee, and it's always going to be lopsided in favor of the employer, and people would just perpetually be screwed. But when you get together and you work together and you can all walk out and you could all demand a fair deal, well, then you're going to have a better system for workers. And by the way, it's a fact that in U.S. history, when we had the highest levels of unionization, we had the strongest middle class in history. Now, that doesn't mean that there's no downsides to unions, but it does mean that that fact is ironclad. That's a stone-cold fact, and there is a link there. There's no causation-correlation problem on that front. It turns out that when you have unions, which are groups that are supposed to collectively bargain to help workers out, workers do better. Shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. Then notice the trick. This is the neoliberal trick, which is just, I mean, it works, unfortunately, but it's really nefarious and cynical. So they passed Prop 13, capped the property taxes, underfunded the schools, then what? Then all the upper middle class and rich folks go, well, I mean, what are we going to do? The schools are underfunded. They're not good schools. So I guess we got to, turn to a charter school and move to privatization. Well, see what they do? Underfund the public schools, then act like public schools just by their very nature are shitty. It's not that they're chronically underfunded, which makes them not perform as well. It's that they're just inherently shitty because they're public schools. So obviously the answer is privatization. Man, it's fucking unbelievable. By the way, this is what they try. This is also a trick for healthcare. How sometimes in single-payer countries, the conservatives will underfund the public healthcare system, and then they turn around and go, what? It's not that I underfunded it that's the problem. It's that there's an inherent issue with public healthcare and universal healthcare, and the answer, I mean, private healthcare is just better. It's a cynical trick, man, and it's really disgusting because it's disingenuous. That's the point. And then, I don't know if you caught the fact, but they said there's about 400 nurses for 900 schools. Oh, unbelievable. And they said they have class sizes of up to 40 kids. So I stand with the teachers. The teachers are 100% correct. They're just asking for a fair deal. And listen, if the non-union teachers in West Virginia could win, then the union teachers in California and in LA can win. So I hope they do, and I hope they keep fighting, and I hope they get a fair deal. And I should note, by the way, Richard Ojeda was with those teachers in West Virginia striking on their side. And you know where Richard Ojeda is right this second? By the way, he's running for president, as we all know. You know where he is right this second? Striking with the teachers in LA. So, for all of his faults and all of his flaws, and we try to be as open and honest as possible on the show and give you all the information and all the policy positions of all the candidates, and I tell you where I stand on them and what I think of them in detail. For all of his issues, he's got quite a few upsides. One of those upsides is he's willing to go around the country and stand with working people and fight on their side, and he's a strong representative of them. And so I think it's wonderful he's there as well. And by the way, no attention from corporate media. TYT gave him some coverage over that, and I haven't seen anybody else give him coverage over that, and they just ignore him. They ignore him because he actually cares about working people. So good luck to the teachers, and I hope it works.